Okay, welcome everybody. I apologize for this video lecture, but the way this is going to work, if you can watch this lecture before our next class, which is going to be February 11th, that will be a synchronous class. February 11th will be in person no matter what, but or rather on Zoom or on our Cisco WebEx meeting. So for February 11th's class, make sure that you're going into Canvas, looking at our course, and then going to the Cisco tab to find our class meeting ID. Okay, so that's what's going to be happening on February 11th. I'd like to remind you all that your resume is going to be due that same time, February 11th, so make sure that you're getting that in and completed. And that's your rough draft. Obviously, there's going to be a final draft, which hopefully you won't need to do too much with. Hopefully, you'll be able to just kind of fine-tune, turn it in for another grade. Again, this class should be pretty easy to get through. I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page and has a good product at the end of the day to turn into potential departments. What I wanted to take the opportunity to do today and then give you the rest of class time today to start working on is the department research project. So first and foremost, we need to understand why we're doing a department research project. Oftentimes I hear it from new firefighters that if I would have known this about this department, then I would have never have tested, I would have never accepted the job. This project, in essence, is to take away that experience for you, so hopefully you make a decision to go to a department right off the bat that you fully understand, that you want to spend a career at, or at the very least know what you're getting into and can plan on, moving later on. Another reason for doing this department research project is to understand what is happening at that department, the culture of the department, and give you tools to succeed while testing for that position. If you're going for a department that's a smaller 3-station, 4-station, whatever department, it's super important to understand what that means. They may not have a huge prevention division. They may not have a huge training division. You, as a new firefighter, may have more say in what's happening with that department. So super important to know kind of the department that you're going into. Conversely, you're going into a big department. You may not know everyone or ever meet every single firefighter at that department. You may be working with a new crew constantly. If that's for you, awesome. If it's not, you found out. You went through the process and alleviated that negative experience before you even went there. So we'll start out and I'll introduce it. If you all go to your files section within the Canvas class and click on Department Research Project, it's all caps, it's a PDF. What you're going to pull up is kind of the assignment. So this assignment is truly for you. It's it's going to be organized in whatever way best suits your ability to do a comparison analysis of these departments. And so I'll go over the broad project and then I'll go over the specific part that's going to be due next class. But the broad project here is to, one, better understand what department you want to work for as a prospective firefighter. Looking at all different types of departments in order to prepare you for their hiring process, and kind of seeing specifically later on in the project which department you would like to key in on and how their hiring process works. Also, this project is to find information that pertains directly to you. So finding out information about a department that you can use personally to be successful while looking to get hired at that department. Maybe you have a really strong interest or strong background in wildland firefighting, and the department that you're researching or that you want to go to aligns with that and mostly runs wildland fire type calls, or has a super strong deployment team that will go out on fires all summer. This is the time to find that out so that you can use that in your oral board and maybe kind of showcase your wildland certifications in your application period. So that's why it's important to be doing this research. And last, what you're going to get out of this project is you're going to be able to communicate what you've learned about that department to a group of, in essence, strangers. So you'll have a small presentation at the end that will help kind of show off what you learned and also give you a chance to speak, kind of gather information and public speak it back. So part 1 is just finding 3 departments that you would like to work for and finding out just very basic information. You can all read 1 through 9 there. Part 2 then is going to be getting a little more in depth about those departments. So breaking it down, what do their benefits look like? What is their culture? So questions that you may have to look for other places than just their website. You may need to go to their union, their locals website. You may need to look at their collective bargaining agreement. Things that we'll kind of speak about and talk about in the coming class, but that's what part 2 is going to entail. Okay, part 3 is to create just a small presentation, 7 to 10 minutes, and really 5 minutes is okay, about the pros and cons of the 3 departments that you chose. So this is the presentation piece of the course. Just a small, we'll call it 5-10 minutes at the most, explaining the pros and cons, and you're going to be able to rank those departments at the end of this presentation from 1 to 3. So what is your number 1 choice department? Looking at part 4, what is your number 1 choice department? Once you figure that out of all the departments in the country, you can then go in and kind of review what their actual application process looks like from the time that you see the posting on the internet, hear about it via word of mouth, whatever the case is, all the way through the end of your probationary period at that department. Okay, so this is a total possible of 400 points. Hopefully everyone, you're going to get out of it what you put into it, and so hopefully everyone should receive full points. But let's back up now that I've introduced the entire project and as a whole and talk about the process of part 1. So part 1 is what's going to be due February 11th. Part 1, what I'm looking for is for you to think of 3 different departments that you have in the back of your head that you would like to work for. They can be any department that offers a career position. So you have to get paid in order to complete this project. It can't just be a volunteer organization. Your end goal, I'm assuming, because you're taking this class, is to be paid to be a firefighter. And so this needs to be a career firefighting position. With that said, it can be with the federal government. NASA has a fire department. It can be with Forest Service, BLM, whatever you so choose. Or it could be a municipality, New York City, FDNY. It doesn't matter as long as there's a career position there and that you show interest into it. You can choose it. So choose 3 departments. What you're going to do is go through 1 through 9 here. Name, city, state, annual call volume, population, things of that nature within the document. I want to talk a little bit about why these things are important, 1 through 9. Annual call volume. What does annual call volume say about the actual department? It says quite a bit. So case is, if you have a department that has 4 stations and they run 10,000 calls a year, you're looking at 2,500 calls a year. What does per station on average? What does that mean for you as a new firefighter? That is quite a bit of action, right? So in determining that they run 10,000 calls a year and they have 4 stations, that kind of sets you up into thinking that, this is going to be a super busy place. Could that be for you? Absolutely. Not for me. It doesn't scream career longevity, but, it could be for you. So finding their annual call volume is extremely important. You're going to find dated numbers. You're not going to find any of these departments that are publishing accurately their 2020 numbers, and that's fine. Just find the most up-to-date number that you can and report it. Okay, population served. When I say population served, what I'm looking for is kind of the geographic location. So is it a suburban department? Is it a big city department? Do they have a high population of geriatric? Do they have a high population of people experiencing homelessness? What does that look like? And the reason this is important is because it's going to give you the type of calls that you're going to be running. If you have a department that generally is a population that is supported by tourism, you can kind of think, well, I don't have any long-term care facilities in a tourist location, generally speaking. I don't really have a high instance of homelessness, so what are my calls really going to look like? Or vice versa, if you have an average population that the age is going to be 76 years old, you're kind of thinking what that call volume is going to entail. And it's a good thing to find out while you're applying for a position before you kind of interview and test for that position. Okay, name of the fire chief, super important. At some point you will be talking to the fire chief, so it's good to have that on the front of your mind. And likewise, the name of the hiring manager. Reason that a hiring manager is important is one, some departments are going to have a hiring manager that is just an HR department. Like a municipality is mostly going to have a contact to their HR department. Sometimes it will be, a captain that's in charge of hiring and recruitment, in a big city. Super important to know their name and their contact information so that you can receive correspondence for them. I don't know how many times I've heard of candidates saying, well, your email went to my junk file, and so I missed, my written test. Well, I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do about that you missed the test. If you don't reply, then I assume that you don't want the position. Oftentimes, fire departments are looking through upwards of 100 candidates, and we can't have the follow-through that we might necessarily like. So consider that and get their contact information right off the bat. Okay, primary call type is pretty self-explanatory. Do they mostly run medicals, which I think the majority of the fire departments in the United States are at least 60-40 medicals, 60% medical calls. There are exceptions. Do they run, strictly an airport or, NASA White Sands test facility? They mostly run aircraft. That's forefront of my mind because there's just a line of duty death there. So department organization, this is super important for a new candidate because department organization tells you longevity within your career. What happens if you get hurt? For me, I'm starting to look at that at a very young age because of bad knees, bad back, whatever the case is. And if I would have known that, my current department doesn't have a job for me if I can't be on the engine, I may have made some changes later on, right? So what's the department organization look? Do they have a prevention bureau? Do they have a training division that you could go into later on down the career? What are your options if you can't be on an engine or on a truck? Things that are important to look at now. Okay, number of stations, we kind of alluded to that. How big is that department? And stations divided by call volume there, it gives you a rough and tough estimate of how many calls each house is running. And for reference, NFPA says that about 1,000 calls a year is as many calls as you should be getting as a firefighter per house. So Station 42 should only be getting, 1,000 calls, just like Station 54 should only be getting 1,000 calls. And that's kind of the way that we set things up in the fire service to complement insurance ratings, ISO, and then accreditation, later down the line. We want to put fire stations in a strategic location based on that call volume data that spreads the workload as evenly as we can. You're always going to have busy houses and slower houses, but you're always shooting to try to level that out. So that's for your research. Think of that. And then number of apparatus. What are those apparatus as well? Are they, mostly type 3 engines? There's departments that run type 3 engines because of the amount of snow that they get, and then their propensity for wildland in the summer. Cal Fire, for instance, their most predominant engine is a type 3. How many trucks do they have? And are they a ladder? Are they a tower? Are they a tiller? Are they a squirt? Whatever the case is, things to note. And it changes the way that you're going to do your job on that department based on the apparatus they have. So what you're going to do at the end of all of, kind of your fact finding, or during your fact finding rather, is go ahead and put this into a document that's well organized for yourself to be able to reference later. Okay, so this can be into a document that is an Excel document if you wish. It could be a Word document, whatever the case is. Just understanding what eventually is going to happen, you're going to want to be able to compare and contrast pretty easily. So with that said, that kind of gives you a good look at what that department research project is. Give you the rest of the class, to get going on that. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to call, text, email CMC. Be more than happy to walk through kind of what's happening or any questions that you may have. I'd like to finish off by making sure everyone understands our due dates that are coming up. So 1, department research project, February 11th. Make sure that's submitted, as well as the rough draft for your resume. That's going to be submitted at the same time. Okay. Once again, anything that I can do to help, please let me know. But that's the end of class for today. Thank you.